with Molly Morse from the famous Bay Area, Sounder CEO.
That's right.
Awesome. You've got a background, I've noticed, with a real clear direction. You called yourself a nerdy engineer just a little bit ago, but environmental engineering, construction and structural engineering. That's why I went into accounting, by the way. That's another story. But you do have a vision to what I see as global sustainable projects. Share with us how this has, and for that matter, how you've evolved in your career and business. Was it like this? Have you got to the point where this is what I always wanted to be when I grow up?
Yeah, it's interesting because looking back on my career, it can all make perfect sense and look like a linear, perfectly straight line. But actually, at the time, it really was anything but that. In a lot of ways, my career has just been one huge, gigantic accident. So I went to undergrad at Cornell University, where I was a civil engineer. At the time, I thought I had a very clear path of what I wanted to do. I did an internship. Cornell has this co-op program where you work for 8 or 9 months or something like that straight. And so I did that program, and I was a civil engineer, so I was working in the field doing different sorts of work. And at the time, I was like, you know what? This isn't what I thought I was working so hard for. I think I want a PhD so I can do cool stuff. That's what I thought as a sophomore in college. And a couple years later, I ended up actually after I graduated, I ended up interning with a structural engineering firm. And I absolutely loved it. I did all kinds of different projects. Some days I was working with clients, some days I was doing calculations, some days I was visiting the field. I was working on earthquake retrofit, I was working on construction. I loved it. But I had actually already applied to grad school and been accepted. So I thought, well, I'll just go to grad school for my 1-year master's of science because then I'll get paid more, right? So I went to Stanford, I thought for 1 year for my master's of science. And while I was there, I happened to meet a professor named Sarah Billington who was interested in environmentally friendly building materials. And I happened to write a paper on that subject matter. And she read the paper and said, by the way, this was in 2004. So 2003, 2004, something like that. Sustainability was cool. And green buildings was, the hot topic.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm actually interested in this subject matter. I have a fully funded position for a PhD student. Any chance you're interested in staying for your PhD? I'll fund you. And I thought, funded position from Stanford University for a PhD? Okay, sure.
Why not?
And, I never thought I wanted to go the academic route. I never thought I wanted to be a professor. And I never really deviated from that path. But, when I graduated from college, a couple months after, I was pretty sure I wanted to be a long-term engineer. But then I became so excited about green building materials, environmentally friendly, sustainable materials in general. And then that deviated to biodegradable building materials like disaster housing. That deviated into biodegradable plastics. I made a partnership with environmental engineering department about how to make environmentally friendly plastics. And then that deviated into more research, and I have a PhD in engineering. I'll do technical stuff because I'm a technical person, right? But I was in Silicon Valley. I saw a lot of people starting companies, and at first, not at first, but I always thought business knowledge to start a company, it must be very hard. Not that it's not, and maybe I just didn't know what I was getting myself into. But after I was still working as a technical person, I was like, if I'm seeing all these other people starting companies, they can do it. Little did I know what I was getting myself into, but I read a bunch of books and worked with some colleagues. So,
well, that's sometimes it's better not to know what you don't know, because fear gets in the way of doing great things. And it sounds like you're doing great things. You're right. When facility got cool, and I was getting into it from my executive search back then too, because I wanted to be involved in that industry and whatnot. But it's definitely a critical and fast-growing industry. You're doing that are coming to the marketplace. What are the challenges, and for that matter, what are the opportunities to basically do some major disruption here with Mango Materials?
Well, there's both. I'm incredibly passionate about our work. It's an opportunity and a challenge, right? Because you could do nothing but work all day and all night. And, I love the people who I work with. I very interested in the use of greenhouse gases for a valuable product. I'm very passionate about the environment and the world's oceans that often are polluted with plastic goods. And a lot of these plastics are single-use items. It's silly to be using persistent materials to make something that's very disposable. And I love our solution that can, affordably use this waste product to make an environmentally friendly, plastic substitute. And so it's in both problems, that of greenhouse gases and that of plastics in the environment, are huge problems.
Right.
And so having a solution for that is so incredibly amazing and empowering. But also, there's a lot of methane out there from lots of different sources, and there's a lot of need for environmentally friendly plastics. And we're a small business, and you can only focus so much. And I kind of see that as part of my job, to be like, what are we not going to do today? What are we not going to look at? What are the few applications we can really focus on? We're trying to scale, a manufacturing technology using a decentralized resource. This stuff is hard, but if you get it right, oh my gosh, it's going to be so amazing. It's both sides, right? It's just
if it wasn't amazing, it probably it wouldn't be worth going for. Obviously, wouldn't have the same passion, and it's a great lesson you're putting out there. You have to be careful sometimes trying to swallow the whole world, and then you're overwhelmed and you actually do nothing versus doing something. So that's a good lesson in leadership there too. So you said, how am I going to open up a business? How do you do this type of thing and that? So how is the SBA, Small Business Admin, been a partner to support you and Mango Materials?
So the SBA is actually the coordinating agency for the SBIR program.
Right.
And so SBIR is a Small Business Innovation and Research Program. And when we were starting Mango Materials, so we're, nerdy, some of us are nerdy PhDs, and we were familiar with the National Science Foundation because some of us had funding from the National Science Foundation as a portion of our graduate careers. So we were familiar with NSF, and I think a couple people mentioned, I think they fund small businesses. And, we looked at the venture capital industry, have looked at lots of different sources of funding, and, being the engineer academic types that we are, decently good at writing grants. So we ended up writing a grant for a Phase 1 National Science Foundation SBIR grant, which ended up getting accepted. We weren't accepted on the first try, but you get some feedback and you incorporate it and apply again. And so we got our Phase 1 in January of 2012. And that was, Mango Materials was incorporated before that. And we had a lot of things in terms of letters of support and location to work, and we had a whole bunch of things lined up. But and we talked to a lot of venture capitalists as well, some of whom we had signed term sheets with. But when that first funding came through from the SBIR agency, that was really our kickoff to really get serious. Not that we weren't serious before, but that allowed us to hire our first employee and really get to the next level.
Right.
So because SBA is the coordinating agency for the SBIR, it's been a huge part of who we are and how we've gotten where we have. And we've now had multiple grants from the National Science Foundation, including a Phase 2. So it's been just incredibly important. And being able to, this was a next generation technology, and we're commercializing it now, but we had some questions that needed to be answered. So we were incredibly fortunate to have that.
Well, it sounds like you had other possibilities, but yet you'd have to give up either equity or debt and this and that and the other. So you end up getting like a confidence booster endorsement, as well as, if you will, no strings attached money.
Exactly.
So that's fantastic. And the person that introduced me to you, obviously, and I guess Rao, I love what he calls himself there, the chief nerd in residence. So it's lots of company that you have, and but that's great to get that support. And that kind of leads me to another question for up and coming leaders, like yourself, and I'm getting tired of saying younger people. It's starting to drive me crazy. But up and coming leaders, tell us what's been the most important lessons, and for that matter, accomplishments, maybe small ones, then bigger ones, small ones, bigger ones, to get you to this point with Mango Materials.
Yep. So that's a good question. So one of the things that I think is incredibly important and also incredibly hard is to consistently keep your eye on where you're going. And it doesn't need to be everyone in the company. Actually, can just be one person in the company. Really, I kind of see this as my goal is what are we really trying to do here? Are we trying to do cool science? Are we trying to get successful grants? Are we trying to, make money? Are we trying to save the world? I mean, and some of these things can go together, but it's like, as a small business and as a leader, you're getting pulled in so many different directions that kind of focusing and being like, are we going to make every kind of plastic? Are we going to partner with every methane producer? You could be spread so thin. And in some ways, as a small business, I do feel like we're spread fairly thin. But to really be focused, really have those goals very narrow. And this is something, as a company at Mango Materials, we're actually sort of constantly changing in how we keep track of this. So when we were small, like only 4 people, we could talk about it all the time because we work so close. Now we have a whole bunch of different manners that we do that in the company, everything from online task management software where we focus on the goals to something in our office, a wall, we call it our wall of successes and goals, where we actually track the goals every week. Awesome. And we have 2 goals, like this is what we're focused on right now. And I think it's incredibly important because when you're starting up, there's just so much sort of junk that just has to get done. You have to fill out all these employee documents, you have to write the grant report, and you have to, work with your partners and work with your customers, and this personnel is having some sort of challenge, so you have to address it. And it's so easy to lose sight. So I think it's incredibly important to just be like, this is where I'm going, and just making sure you're inching forward towards that.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and it's almost like you're describing what I love. One of the most terms I love the most is your why.
Yes.
What you're going for.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I think you got to keep your eye on it because you're right. You could get so tied up in running the business that you're not actually doing what you really love to do to make a difference. So now I got some personal questions. Not that personal, but a little bit personal. Do you have a pet?
No.
Okay, I'm just asking.
No pet. I couldn't handle a pet. We have some orchids that keep dying. So, no.
All right. Well, you probably will get a pet sometime in your future, and we
maybe after Mango Materials.
Do you have a favorite sport?
Yeah. So I love running and biking and swimming. I love hiking. Before Mango Materials, I used to do a lot of triathlon.
Oh, wow.
And now I exercise. It's having a long time to go for a long run is hard. But actually, sometimes I create an agenda for my long run, like things I need to mull through, and then I go for a long run.
No, you can do that. I think I compare a lot of things to sports. I think you can out of while you're doing the run, and the whole premise of doing a run like that, or a triathlon, if you will, can really apply to a lot of activities you do in business. You probably don't watch a lot of TV or whatever. Do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
No, we moved 2 years ago, and on Friday I finally took it out of the box. So no, I don't.
That's fine.
I work in a shipping container at a wastewater treatment plant. I don't do that much.
I think you're spending it on more useful things. How about a favorite book?
Oh, I have a lot of books I like. I wouldn't describe it as a favorite. This is like a nerdy work-related book. But I like, there's a book about, this was even in the pre-questions. I should have written down the name of the title.
Well, think about it.
The Art of Organizing Everything. I forget. It's a book out of Japan that was translated into English.
Cool.
And it's gotten a ton of press. And yeah, it's about organizing. It's not like a funny novel or something like that, but it's amazingly helpful in my personal life and Mango Materials. So right now, everyone at Mango Materials is like, oh, good Lord, Molly's on an organizational binge.
No, I think it's actually sounds like a great book because, as you said before, you get overwhelmed with everything to do. Yep. And all the stuff you don't want to do, the admin, the this and that organizing everything sounds good. How about favorite music or food?
Oh, I love food. I like music too. I love anything with chocolate, especially like hazelnut flavored chocolate, dark chocolate, homemade chocolate, chocolate fountains, hot chocolate, chocolate truffles.
So tell me how you feel about chocolate.
I love chocolate. My approval can be bought in chocolate.
Awesome. Well, with that, this segment will be complete. Thank you so much. That was great.
Thank you.